had Game Boy. I had my Game Shed on. Shit.
We have taken the sector.
Pay attention.
Clear the sector from enemy presence. We have secured the sector.
So that nothing's popping up on this. Fuck. Checking to make sure the audio's working, you know. Usual. Just pop in here for a second while I check all this stuff out. Alright, sick. We are good to go. So as the title states, this is going to be more just history, and we're talking about basically imperialism and all that jazz. All playing some Battlefield 1. The turns out to be not so realistic. Oh, historically accurate World War I game. Shit. But, what's it called? Alright, so, you know what? Here. I'm gonna start with the rise of the German Reich. And not that one. I'm talking about the Second Reich here. We're going way back. No, actually, we're going to start with the First Reich. This one is the Holy Roman Empire, right? A lot of people don't know. Whenever they hear Reich, they usually interpret it as the Nazis, which just isn't the case, right? I mean, historically, if you read a book, if they say the Reich, they're probably talking about the Nazis, but that was the Third Reich. There was two other ones. The First Reich, right, was the Holy Roman Empire, which lasted centuries. I forget when the Holy Roman Empire was exactly formed because I don't look into early modern or Middle Ages. I'm more for basically anything after around 1800 is my historical knowledge, and I am not an expert, so I do not claim to be, but I've read a few books, I've studied the subject, and I feel that I could reasonably tell you in a simplistic manner about the history of Europe and the Americas from around 1800 to modern day. So, here we go. We're going to start with Germany. So, Germany used to be the Holy Roman Empire until it was collapsed. Until it was collapsed by who was he? It was someone the second of the Habsburg. He was the Holy Roman Emperor, as well as the leader of Austria, which was part of the Holy Roman Empire at the time. And they dissolved it due to Napoleon invading, and he worried that if Napoleon did take control of the Holy Roman Empire, that his status as a leader would be more of a puppet instead of an actual leader of a nation. So he decided to disintegrate the Holy Roman Empire. And the two biggest well, not really nations, but kingdoms, I would say, was the Kingdom of Prussia and the Kingdom of Austria. I don't know if it was called a kingdom, but yeah. There was also Bavaria.
Clear the sector from enemy presence.
Württemberg, some others. I could not name them all, if I'm being completely honest with you, because there was a lot of duchies. Duchies, protectorates. Well, they wouldn't be protectorates. No. Anyway, so we're focusing on Germany here. Germany, which basically was the entire Holy Roman Empire region, but more specifically, Prussia. Prussia gained influence through its just... Well, I'm going to turn down game volume here, so that, number one, I myself can think, and you guys can probably hear me a little bit better. There we go. So Prussia gained its status through its military power. That was its biggest feature, and it was, I believe, 1855 or 1866 that Prussia went to war with Austria. It was the Austro-Prussian War, and Prussia won. So now you may be wondering, well, right? Austria, they fought alongside, well, Austria-Hungary. They fought alongside Germany in the First World War, so 1914. So if less than a century earlier, right? Actually, less than 50 years earlier, they got invaded by them. Why would they ally with them? Well, the case was, so after the collapse, well, not collapse, fuck, I'm stupid, sorry. The loss of Austria, Germany decided to not annex any sort of land from Austria, which was just pretty cool. It wasn't very common at the time to not see that, so they did that. They didn't annex any land, and that kind of made them a little bit more cool, I suppose. But go a little bit further, where Germany really starts to get its cool rise was in 1870 with the Franco-Prussian War. That's where the Prussians, along with the North German Confederation and some more southern states, went and invaded France for the first time, and they fucked up France. They reached Paris, besieged it, and the French surrendered. So with that, that was done by Otto von Bismarck and Wilhelm the First, or William the First. Now, so Wilhelm the First ruled Germany. I forget when he died, but he was the first leader, and then, respectively, Wilhelm the Second took power after his death, and that was the final German emperor, because he advocated after World War I.
The final objective is within our reach.
So that was the end of the German Empire's, like, royal family, I suppose. Now, something that's pretty funky here, right, is that Wilhelm II was the grandson of Queen Victoria of England, and George V, who was the leader of Britain at the time of the First World War, was also the grandson of Queen Victoria. You know who else was the grandson of Queen Victoria? Nicholas II, who was the Tsar of Russia at that time. Now, the map that I'm actually playing, which takes place, I believe, in 1916, in Galicia, which is the region around the Baltics, Poland, Ukraine. What's that place called? Shit. Starts with a B. Hold on, let me look it up here. Let me look at a map. I'm usually really good. Belarus. I didn't even have to look at a map. I just got it real quick there. Anyway, yep.
The Habsburg monster is in retreat.
This is that whole thing happened.
Precise artillery attacks and methodical use of shock troops, the Priscilla offensive managed to breach many sections of the Eastern Front. To avoid a total collapse of its armies and so the Empire, it was vital for the Austro-Hungarians to hold up the Russian advance until German troops arrived from the west. Kolomea was to be where one of these decisive battles would take place.
Alright. Hopefully I can think here now. Or maybe not. I don't know if they're going to do one of those weird monologue things. No, actually, I'll just turn down my volume so I can more clearly think. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so Nicholas II, he was the grandson of Queen Victoria as well. And if you know your history, especially if you really like a certain man from Germany who had some very cool, not cool, political ideologies, whose name started with a K. I'm not talking about Hitler, right? I'm talking about Karl Marx, but some very notable Karl Marx supporters, known as the Bolsheviks, decided to, off Nicholas II and his family. So that's how that whole thing ended. But I believe that happened in 1919. I could be wrong though. So anyway, I don't really know much about British history, if I'm being completely real with you. Like, yeah.
Comrades, the Habsburg.
So, next up. Well, what else can I talk about? So, I mean, keeping on the topic of monarchies in the 19th and 20th centuries. No, I didn't say monarchies in this. So, I get a little bit of wiggle room here, and I'm using clickbait. Monarchies and the 19th and 20th centuries. So I really get a wide view here. I mean, I could talk about 1991 and that whole fiasco, including the Balkans and the USSR. I could talk about the fall of Yugoslavia, talk about the fall of the Soviet Union. I don't really know much about the fall of the Soviet Union, to be completely honest with you here. I know, we'll talk about World War I. Playing World War I game, and World War I is my favorite. Anyone who likes history, they do have a favorite war, and that's just a fact. That's not an opinion. My favorite time period, I'd say, is probably for being completely real.
We are losing objective apples.
A lot of people like to portray World War I as just the trenches, which, you could do if you are just you could do that if you are just if you're just focusing on the Western Front, but this wasn't just a war between Germany and France. I mean, that was the main, right? But this was a global war, as implies by World War. Oh shit! Implies by World War. In the Eastern Front, so with Russia, Austria-Hungary, and Germany, there wasn't a lot of trench action. There was some, but it wasn't as massive as the Western Front. A lot of the time, horses were still used for dragging artillery, as well as transporting soldiers, even until late into the war. Tanks were not used widely until very late into the war. In fact, the entirety of World War I, right? Germany had only produced, I think it was around 20 tanks. They were not that big, and even the big producers like France and England, their technology wasn't that good. They weren't primarily used for warfare. Well, they were used for warfare, but they weren't used for like tank fighting or any of that, which it did happen sometimes. But they were more used for transporting troops and that sort of matter, like transporting troops, radio lines, transporting ammunition and supplies, because a lot of the times tanks would get stuck. They could, believe it or not, they can get stuck, and one shell would blow up the tank. And if you say, oh, one shell it's unlikely to hit the tank. I don't know if you have recently checked this or not. Well, honestly, I doubt that any of you have, but I have once, and just out of curiosity. And I believe, let me just double check here, because I'm about to say 20 billion, and that just don't sound right. But
we have taken objective butter. Clear the sector from enemy presence.
Oh yeah, I was way off. Sorry about that. It's 1.2 billion shells were shot in the entirety of World War I. That is a fuck ton, alright? Especially saying that again, this is probably wrong, but especially saying that the population of the world at the time was, I believe, around 2 billion people. That means that per every 2 people, 1 shell was fired. So the chance of a tank getting hit, especially using creeping garage and just fucking laying hell, there's a high chance of that vehicle getting hit. And 1 shell and that thing is toast. We didn't have all this cool artillery, like fucking sponge shit that they use on tanks now. It didn't exist because there's new technology. Also, they did come up with anti-tank rifles, which would basically just fuck up a tank. Planes, a lot of people like to say, oh, planes, you had dog fights and all that shit, which, yes, it did happen, but during the entirety of World War I, especially since planes were very, they weren't as new as tanks, but planes were still a very new technology. They were more used how hot air balloons used to be used in warfare, which was more just reconnaissance and dropping bombs occasionally. I believe it was 1916 that they, 1915 or 16, where they learned how to do the synchronized guns for propellers, so you wouldn't shoot your fucking propeller off. And still, though, plane dogfights still, in my research, aren't even that common.
Is within our reach.
So, yeah, there's just a little fun fact for you. A lot of this war, though it being a very modern war, was still very primitive in the sense of technology. It was still a lot of just men charging on foot. There was a lot of horses. Cavalry was still used a lot, and it just, if you want if you want one of those wars where it's a lot of machinery and all that shit, that's going to be your World War II, which is why I believe a lot of people like World War II, because there's a lot of vehicles that you can research and all that stuff. But anyway, where was I? There's my little tangent there. World War I, was basically, in my personal opinion, a lot of bullshit. It really didn't need to happen. They claim, well, everyone pins the blame of the war on Germany, when in reality, if everyone says that, oh, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by Gavrilo Princip was the start of the war, then in that case, it would be Austria's fault for the war because they invaded Serbia. Which then you could also say, well, Serbia, right? Well, actually no. It wouldn't be Serbia's fault. In any instance, I don't believe it would be Serbia's fault, because it was done by a terrorist organization known as the Black Hand, which, yes, it had some of Serbia's high-ranking military officials in it. They, again, from my reading, were not commanded by the Serbian government. So it was more of an independent organization. So it would not have been Serbia's fault directly. Maybe indirectly Serbia's fault, but still. Not Serbia's fault.
The 1916 Brusilov offensive proved to be the
mainly
worst
Austria-Hungary, though. Especially saying that,
and the Triple
so,
Entente's greatest victory.
they sent an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding reparations for, well, the assassination of the Archduke.
Much of the territory gained by Brusilov
which
was lost to
they
the
sent
Germans
it
arriving
a
from the
month
west.
after his death.
It
Now,
is a sad irony that in the
a lot
end,
of
it was a
the,
political collapse in Russia, not a military defeat, that would decide
monarchies
the
in
outcome
Europe,
of this region's
they
war.
sympathized for the Habsburgs at the time. Shortly after the assassination, which was in July. That's why it's called the July Crisis. But since Austria waited so long to send an ultimatum and demand reparations, the time in between the actual death and the letter, most of the royal families kind of lost that sort of sympathy that they originally had, because if they had done it, let's say, like, maybe within a week of the death, that might seem a bit more reasonable. But they waited until they got confirmation from Germany that if any other powers, that if Russia was to attack Austria due to them attacking Serbia, that Germany would assist. That in that time, they lost sympathy. So, yeah. But then you could also say, well, maybe it's Germany's fault, because if Germany didn't get involved, then jack shit would have happened. But it's still Austria's go on that, you know. So, who knows? Well, that's my take. You know. Here, what's this? Conquer Hill. Also, that's one other thing. A lot of movies and all that shit like to portray that World War I was mainly between the Germans and the English and Americans. That's just not the fucking case. The war was primarily between the French and the Germans, which, you know, the British, yes, they did help in the Western Front a lot, but there were a lot more French there too. The British also did a lot of stuff across the globe, such as in the Middle East, in the Black Sea area, so like the Ottoman Empire and all that jazz. So, yeah, we're going to do Conquer Hill here.
The U.S. Army's attack along the River Meuse would be the first time.
I might get into a lobby. A lot of times I don't. It's whatever though. I'm just trying to find a new one.
Though this assault came as a surprise to the Central Powers, the German army was an experienced elite force, ready for anything.
I'm doing a lot of rambling here. And let's take a moment. Let's take a moment. I need to catch my thinking. Got me Arizona tea, not sponsored. I do really like Arizona though. So if y'all want to sponsor me, go right ahead, please. Oh no.
Tomorrow we'll be going over the top, finally up against the Hun. So far it's felt too much like a holiday.
You seen the machine guns they got? The
Oh,
artillery?
hey Metal, how's it going?
Damn it.
I am talking about
25 to 1 against.
World War I primarily right now,
So
but it is going good. How you doing?
Easy.
Break this Hindenburg line and finish this
So
war.
anyway,
French been fighting for 4 years. They say just 4 minutes.
I'm doing pretty good.
German lines, and we look just like them.
Right now,
Like an army of living dead.
I got work in the morning, but you know, we're just playing some Battlefield 1 and talking. Yeah, you know, I'm doing homeschooling right now. Which I typically just do that at night. So I work in the morning, and then I come home, take a little bit of a break, and I do some schoolwork. And that's what I'm currently doing.
First, we must secure Shrapnel Corner, this fortified trench line here.
But
then we will move into their rear, take and hold this chateau. Following this assault, we will continue our push towards this railway hub and capture it quickly.
alright, so anyway. God damn it. There ain't no one in here. Alright. So gotta start this stuff back up here. Anyway, back onto the actual topics at hand here with World War One. So, oh shit. I guess we have to do the Bruslav offensive again. But anyway.
1916.
So
the Eastern Front is locked in a stalemate. After several failed and expensive campaigns, the Russians were unwilling to attack, while the Austro-Hungarians were content to hold the line.
The Western Front is a war,
which
primarily when you look at
the Central Powers on so the under-resourced Russian army was pressed to find new methods to break down the superior Habsburg forces that had long resisted them.
Alright, so the Western Front of the war was primarily the British and technically the British Ra or Indian forces, French versus the Germans. There were also Irish and, you know, all that jazz, but we're just going to keep it simple here. British and French versus Germans. So, during the early parts of the war, it was all done on horseback and foot, except for when if they were transporting troops, right? Yes, they would use trucks and all that stuff, but from my understanding, at least, with the technology used at the time, trucks were not really able to tow artillery and the big guns. So they would use horses for dragging artillery, and as well as trains. They did have armored trains. I could not tell you how common they were, but I do know that they had them. Trains were also very important for transporting troops,
Soldiers,
equipment, weaponry, all that jazz. Now I cannot find a lobby. This is something. But you know, we're gonna find a new game. What other games we got here? I don't think I really got anything else. You know what? We'll play some. Alright, here we go. We're on Red Dead Redemption now. We're changing streams. This is it. Big switch. Now we're talking about the Wild West. Not really. We're going to stay on topic. But hopefully it doesn't show anything very important here, because, you know, that's all fine and dandy. But anyway, back on topic. World War I, right? We got on the Western Front early inside the war, as I said, on horseback. Trucks were used, but let me turn my echo down. But very early, before trench warfare was actually used, right? Because it wasn't immediately used; it was used as more of a last resort. So the Germans first pushed through. We are actually learning about World War I in class right now. That is good. You know, my school actually didn't teach me anything about World War I, right? And that, in my opinion, I think that's kind of bullshit, right? That you're going to school to learn, and you go to history class, and you get to the early 1900s, and they tell you, oh yeah, we got Panama. The U.S. gained Panama. We gained the Philippines, and also in 1911 there was some funky stuff going on the Mexican border, and then after that they're like, oh yeah, we got involved in a war, and then it ended. We had to do a project about the bayonet. The bayonet's a fun one. You know, I believe actually the last official ordered bayonet charge by the U.S. military was during the Korean War, which I find pretty fascinating, because you think, oh yeah, bayonets, bayonet charges. You'd think, oh yeah, you know, old 19th century warfare. It's 1800s, maybe 1700s, and you all line up in lines and, oh, we do volley fire and boom, boom, and then charge. No, they still did that in World War II even. Fun fact, even in World War II, they were still using horses. Hold on. Anyway, so yeah, even in World War II, they were still using horses. And the bayonet is pretty cool. And if you want one, right? You want one on any of your real life guns, you can buy a bayonet mount for pretty cheap. A lot of guns actually come with them. So there you go. Now, anyway, back to today. We're still using them. I do not believe the U.S. military is. I don't believe you are issued one in when you're active duty. Maybe your combat knife could be used as a bayonet. They're not mandatory, but if you want one, they'll give them to you. Oh, well, I did not know that. The more you know. But yeah, I do know that in training and boot camp and all that, they do still do bayonet training, just because, you know, it's classical. It's what would be the word? It's tradition. But yeah. So, anyway, during the early time during the early war in World War I, on the Western Front, the Germans went through Belgium, and Belgium was neutral. And the same with World War II, the British got involved. But they were pretty hesitant to get involved at first because they don't want to get into a war with what at the time Britain considered Germany as a pretty big rival in terms of power, especially naval power. Germany was really boosting up their navy, and that's what started scaring the English. They felt threatened by Germany's advancements in their navy, especially because, you know, the British, they were the best at the sea, and at this time the Germans had proven themselves to be basically the masters of the land, pretty much kind of like Napoleon in the early 1800s. They proved to be the best in land warfare. The British proved to be the best in naval. And so again, yeah, they were pretty hesitant to get involved. But even still, so once they pushed past Belgium, they started getting into France, and they got pretty close. They got pretty far in there. I got to some pretty important towns, and the French eventually started getting pushed back to Paris, and they thought it was going to be a repeat of the Franco-Prussian War, where basically they besieged Paris and it all went south. But the French did something pretty funky. They dug in, and it's just a little fun fact here. Being on the defense in trench warfare, it is very difficult to attack, mainly because the only thing you can really see are their heads, and they have machine guns while you're running across an open field. It wasn't always an open field, though. There were a lot of trees, there was still grass. A lot of movies and pictures like to depict that at the time, No Man's Land was just a muddy, a natureless mess, which, yes, it was very muddy, but really only when it rained, and there were still leaves on trees, unless it was, you know, winter. The trees didn't magically lose all their leaves. So, anyway, the Germans realizing that they couldn't really advance anymore, they also decided that the best course of action would be to dig in as well, so that they are also on the defense, and if the French try and push them back out of France it's not going to be easy. And they, the French and the Germans tried flanking each other all down south and all up north to try and get around the trenches, which is, and they kept on digging in there, which is why the trench lines spanned all the way across the continent instead of just the main area where the Germans, you know, tried to invade. What else? Another big thing, artillery. As said earlier, 1.2 billion artillery shells were shot in the entirety of World War I on the Western Front, I believe it said. So, you know what you can do against an entrenched force that has barbed wire, so that you can't really easily run in there. You can bomb the shit out of it, and it works pretty well. So what they would do is if you wanted to attack a opposing trench, you would send artillery over, try and destroy their barbed wire, as well as just scare the shit out of their soldiers. Because I don't know if you've ever had basically bombs being dropped on your head, but I guarantee I haven't either, but from what I can imagine, it doesn't sound like a very pleasant experience. Scare the shit out of the soldiers, and then charge a ton of men across the field to push through the barbed wire and hopefully get into the other trench. Which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't, which is why... Oh shit, there's guys over there. I'm not going to shoot them. I'm going to be a nice Samaritan here. I'm not going to be a nice Samaritan to this doe, though. It's a 3-star doe right there. But... yeah. So, charge across, and hopefully take the trench. If it didn't work, retreat, and repeat until something happens. Which is why jack shit happened. What the fuck happened here? Which is why nothing happened on the Western Front, and it really only moved maybe a mile or two in the entirety of the damn war. On the Eastern Front, though, with the Russians, Germans, and Austrians, it was a bit different. So, as we were playing the Brusilov offensive earlier in Battlefield 1, it does show that, you know, we're going to start all the way back at the beginning, just like how I did with Germany. So, at the beginning of the war, it was Austria that made the first move. They did the first ever attack in the entirety of World War I, and it was known as the Battle of Sur, and that took place in the Sur Mountains, which was in Serbia. Now, eventually, the Austrians at first did really good, which they pushed into some towns in Serbia, and yeah, the Austrians were they're really good at fighting in urbanized areas. Well, they were really good at fighting in their urbanized areas, not so good at fighting in the mountains. So the Serbians still dominated the mountains. The Austrians were doing pretty good in the towns. Now, the thing that you can do about being inside mountains is you can, you know, bomb the shit out of the towns that are surrounded by mountains. So, by basically besieging their own towns, you can get the Austrians to get the fuck out of your land, which they did, and the Austrians had to go back. So, as they expected, the Russians attacked Austria because Russia backed Serbia. And Austria was backed by Germany, so Germany had an army back over in the east so that they could help the Austrians. The Russians invaded northern Austria and fucked them up. They had quite a bit of land that they took. I do not know what the offensive was called. Here, I'm going to look You know, I'll just call it the Galician Offensive. There you go. The Galicia campaign. So, yeah, they invaded, and they won. Now the Germans pushed north. So if you have seen a map of Germany, basically just imagine the Poland area, Belarus, all that. They basically pushed into there and started moving north, which was around where the Russians had invaded Austria. So the Germans were basically about to flank them. So they diverted some troops over there, and that allowed the Austrians to push the that allowed the Austrians to push the Russians out. The Germans went back in, and jazz.
Lucky this is popular, how common it is.
No, I'm not too good of a teacher. I'm gonna keep it a $1.50 here. I mean, maybe you're learning, maybe you're not. I hope you're learning, because you know, this is some pretty cool stuff. You know, if you want to look like a nerd at any sort of family event, then watch my channel. All right, let me tell you. So yeah.
Pleasure doing business.
We have fun on this channel. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know too much about the Italian front of the war, which would be the which would include a lot of the battles of Isonzo and all that jazz. But I do know that the Italians got involved primarily because they joined the Entente, primarily because they expected to get a region of Austria-Hungary after the war, which they didn't, which is another of the reasons why Germany sided with, not Germany, sorry, Italy sided with Germany in World War II, because they basically didn't get shit out of World War I when they felt that they deserved it. That's basically the same with Japan. Fun fact, Japan participated in World War I. They took a lot of islands from the Germans in the Pacific, which is why during World War II the Japanese had a lot of the Pacific Islands, because they took them from Germany. After World War I, though, during all the treaties, the Treaty of Versailles was not the only treaty. The Treaty of Versailles was focused on Germany, but there was a lot of other treaties. I don't know the names, but one of the big ones was what broke up Austria-Hungary, what they decided to do with that, as well as what to do with the Ottoman Empire. And they planned on cutting up the Ottoman Empire like they did Austria-Hungary, but some people in the Ottoman Empire decided to revolt and basically form a new government, which is now Turkey. So, yeah. Yeah, we got about 10 more minutes of history here. You know, my streams are going to probably be about an hour long each. I think that's a decent time for a stream. But anyway, so Italy, they didn't get well, no, Japan. During the post-war conferences and all that, they basically got left out of everything. And that really pissed off the Japanese. You know, imagine if your country fought in a war, and during the peace talks, they basically acted like you didn't fucking exist, right? I'd be pretty pissed. You'd be pretty pissed. Everyone that was Japanese would be pretty pissed. So, you know. Yeah. we're just mimicking the Americans when they want to help stabilize Native American populations in the 1800s. But yeah, you know, that's another thing. A lot of history classes in school won't teach you that America was kind of fucked up, for being real here, in the early parts of its history. And a lot of people like to imagine that it's still like that, which, that's your belief. You can believe in what you want. Because, guess what? You got your First Amendment rights for that. What the fuck just happened? Oh. But, yeah. Yeah. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about World War II here. We're going to talk a little bit about World War II. I don't really like talking about World War II too much. But, here's a little fun fact for you. Did you know that Hitler, the big bad evil guy, he took a lot of his ideology, so for the Nazi ideology, he took a lot of that from basically the American westward expansion, Manifest Destiny. So, think about that next time. Yeah. No, when it comes to World War II, fuck off. When it comes to World War II, it kind of got a lot of family importance there because when Benito Mussolini took power in Italy, that's mainly when my family actually came over to the U.S. Well, part of my family. So, yeah. Fun fact for you.
Deal. Thank you for your custom.
I actually can't see how much money I have in game. The thingy here is blocking it. Oh, 830. I just saw it on the stream screen. That is crazy, dude. I almost got $5,000. Wow. And I kind of want to mess with these people. Just see what would happen, you know? Oh shit. Yeah. If you learned anything from the stream, it should be that World War I was not all just trench warfare, but what it was a completely needless and fucking bloodbath. That's what it was. And it was started by some cousins that didn't really like each other too much. There you go. But yeah. You know, I hope to stream a little bit more. Get that going on my channel. Because I do really like talking about this kind of stuff, right? It's an interest of mine. And, you know, we're gonna try and string this up another 5 minutes, get it to an hour. Get to a nice number. What other random thing can I just throw in here before we reach the end of the stream? You know what? Who knows? Maybe the next stream will be philosophy. Maybe it'll be history. Who knows? Maybe, actually. You know, I'm getting my license here pretty soon. Maybe it will be a video of me driving. Like, or like a dash cam on my car or something. That might be pretty cool. You know, that's what all the... You do that in Russia, you're set. I don't know if any of you have ever watched those montages and all that. Just like, dash cams in Russia. Like the middle of fucking nowhere, and it's just some of the most random ass crashes, and they're pretty entertaining. You should watch that out. That's your homework if you're watching the stream. Yeah. But if you ever do want to watch an Alien 21 stream, just know that I do watch chat. I will respond. I'm not going to ignore your presence. So yeah. What the fuck? Y'all see that too? Those things just disappeared. Where'd they go? They're just gone. Okay. Man. Ain't that something? Watch this. Y'all about to see some crazy stuff. It's gonna be the craziest shot y'all have ever fucking seen in your life. Alright, watch this shit. Fuck. Alright. Stop beating. Come on. Man. You wanna stop eating there? What's going on? See that? Shot of the damn century. If that don't deserve a like and follow, I don't know what does. And there you go. That's my TikTok spiel. You know, I don't really like TikTok. Just biased because I watch it. But, you know, let's ignore that part. Oh. I'm not biased, it's hypocritical. There you go. You ain't never gonna see me play Fortnite on streams though. I'll tell you. I'm gonna say there's no Fortnite for Manlia 21. Alright, we got about 1 more minute here. Let's make it count. We're going to end on a good note. PETA would be very angry if they were watching this video, let me tell you. And there you have it. That is going to be the end of the Antlia 21 live stream. And I hope y'all enjoyed. I'm starting to feel a little sick. And I got work tomorrow, and I hope I don't get sick. Yeah. See y'all.